All right, folks, we are back with another edition of the Red and White Podcast. I'm your host, Evan, and it is basketball season. NC State is taking on Mount Olive in an exhibition game right now. And we have a special announcement for you that to help us with our basketball coverage this year, I know we were lacking last year and in the years past, and it's because somebody left us, but he's back. Matt Coe is back with the pod, and we'll be doing our hoops content this year. Matt, welcome back. Glad to have you. Glad to finally talk basketball with somebody who knows what they're talking about. No offense, Will, but yes, glad to have you back.
Man, I'm happy to be back. It feels good to be talking to you again about some NC State hoops. I've missed it, and I'm happy to be here, man.
Currently, State is slapping the Mount Olive pickles around wherever their mascot is, as expected. But let's get into I guess we'll start with the schedule this year, right? We hadn't really talked about it. What is your take on this year's schedule? Is it winnable? Is it, what do you think?
It's pretty run-of-the-mill. Same old. I got all my notes right here, so if you hear some pages flipping and whatnot, just ignore that for the time being. It's pretty much carbon copy of last year. Not really a whole lot of flavor to it. You got one or two marquee matchups up at the top with Tennessee. I guess you can throw in Vandy in there. I'm not really huge on Vandy, but I think that the Keats era is exactly what it is. He doesn't seem to prioritize the mid-majors. I'm a mid-major fanatic. You know this. Anybody that talks to me about it, any kind of hoops knows that I like to prioritize mid-majors. And I think later in the season, scheduling a lot of these cupcakes is going to come back to bite them.
Who do you think of the mid-majors that we have now? Who do you think is actually going to present a challenge, if any?
Well, it's slim pickings. I don't really consider St. Louis a mid-major. I won't really throw them in that conversation. But one team that I want to highlight, maybe, might spark some interest, is out of the OVC is UT Martin. They went 19-14 last season, 10-8 in their conference. They finished third, and they were picked fifth out of 11 teams this upcoming season. They actually didn't have too bad of a year. They've got a little bit of a turnover. They've got a couple of starters out, but still got some solid role players coming back. One guy I really like is Jordan Sears for them. He was a first-team All-OVC, and they actually held Morehead State. They held them in check for the most part. They went 1-1 against them. They were the regular season champs before getting upset in the OVC tournament. I like this team for what it is. I guess I'd consider them my sleeper in the OVC and maybe a sleeper for this weaker non-conference schedule if you want to highlight anybody that aren't those main 5 games.
What about I'm just going to look at the Power 5 programs for lack of a better term. Ole Miss, Tennessee, and what was the other one? Vanderbilt. I mean, it seems like a decent schedule. I mean, no?
No, I mean, it's fine. Again, I think Vanderbilt kind of outperformed expectations. I think they're going to reel it back in a little bit. Preseason, they were picked 10th, and right now they're sitting at 79th in KenPom.
Mm-hmm.
I think the team that nobody's really talking about and who I hope we draw in the Vegas showdown is going to be BYU. I think BYU is a sleeper on this schedule, arguably the biggest sleeper on the schedule. They were very young last year, very underperforming. They went 19-15, currently 36th in KenPom. But one thing that I want to keep in mind for a lot of fans listening, they ranked 290th in experience, and they were just a very young team. I think one more year under their belt, they're going to get back into the swing of things. They also ranked 309th in turnover percentage. That's 20.2% of turnovers on their possession. That bodes well for NC State, a team that likes to turn you over. I think this is a matchup nightmare for BYU. Not a very good three-point shooting team last year. They will get better this year, but one thing that NC State likes to do is let it rain from deep. I think this is exactly the team you want to draw and a team that you're going to circle on your calendar when you're possibly talking about some tournament selection Sunday.
I think that, yeah, I've seen that before. I know we're going to have, I guess what most people are expecting is that Arizona State and, DJ Horn revenge game is going to be who we pull in that. Was probably more expected.
Right.
But I could see us ending up against BYU. It'd be interesting. Yeah, I mean, looking at the schedule as a whole, where do you project NC State finishes the non-conference schedule? Like, what record do you think?
How many games we have? 13, is it?
I think so.
Yeah, if it's off the top of my head here, 13.
5, 6,
7. About 10-3. I don't really give them a shot against Tennessee, and that's no, hate towards NC State or anything like that. Tennessee is built for a championship this year. They're going to be really solid. I think this is going to be a, not very exciting, watered down version of last year. And I don't know. I think that this team is going to be exactly who they are. They're going to beat the teams that they're supposed to beat. They're going to lose the teams they're supposed to lose to.
It'd be interesting to see how this plays out. I just, one of the things that I never know what to expect, and I think it makes it hard talking about basketball, especially this year in general, is it's an entirely new team. And I'm looking at this roster, DJ Horn, Jaden Taylor, Cam Woods, MJ Rice, Dennis Parker, Michael O'Connell, Alex Nunley, Jordan Snell, Muhammad Diarra, and then Middlebrooks. And then you have, DJ Burns, Casey Morcell, Breon Pass, a couple of guys from back. But it's an entirely new roster. And I have, looking at this roster as a whole, there's a whole ton of guards on this roster. And I have no idea who they are counting on to, outside of DJ Burns, obviously, but DJ Burns is not a huge threat on the glass. Who's going to rebound for this team? And, watching this stat broadcast right now for the basketball game, and we're losing the offensive glass to Mount Olive. So my preseason concerns, are they real? Are they justified? Am I making it up? Who's going to play in the post?
No, I think you're you're hitting the nail on the head there. I think that that's a real concern. It's been a real concern. I remember years ago when I talked about the, lack for a better term, terrible rebounding. NC State was outside the top 100 in rebounds per game at just 36.6 per game, and that's due to the style of basketball they play. There's a lot of long rebounds. They like to take a lot of threes. I think that they're hoping it's going to be a mixture of guys. I know me and you have talked. The way I look at this team is like Moneyball. And for any of my baseball fans out there, I think Kevin Keats took a Moneyball approach with this roster. You're not going to be able to make up a Jason Giambi or a Johnny Damon. They're gone. They're out the door. Jarkel and Terquavion are out the door. They accumulated for 44.6% of your offense last year. But you can try recreating them, and I think that, Keats did a solid enough job. One thing that I like is, I think DJ Horn is going to fit in really nicely. I'm not really sold on Jaden Taylor. Played for a bad Butler team, very inefficient player, not a great three-point shooter. I just think, like I said, it's a very watered-down version of last season. And if we're expecting Middlebrooks to kind of be that bruiser, again, he's not Doosan. These guys are not the same guys as last year. There's not enough pop on this roster, not enough star talent, in my opinion. I think, Keats tried to do it with Rob Dillingham and Jaden Bradley, and he missed out on a couple of guys. And I think he just kind of, got together what he could, and they did a solid job. I won't completely, I don't want to be just a bearer of bad news, but no, I think your concerns are accurate and they should be talked about.
Jaden Taylor is our leading scorer for the night so far. 4 of 8, 50% from the field, 11 points. DJ Horn, who I expect to be this year's Terquavion, and he's kind of living up to that, where he's going to shoot a lot. He's going to have those nights where he goes, 11 for 13 for 30, or 1 for 15 for 4. Not a whole lot in between. He's 4 for 10 right now, 2 for 6 from three-point land, 10 points. Not ultra efficient, but yeah, he kind of kind of get what you expect, I think, from a Kevin Keatts offense. There are going to be a lot of shots. They're going to be moving up and down the court. I mean, I think the positive now is that they have a whole bunch more guards that I think can contribute, right? I mean, I think, they bring in DJ Horn from Arizona State. You always mentioned Jade Taylor, O'Connell from Stanford. They might not be elite guards, but they're all guys that played a lot of basketball, a lot of experience. And to me, that's how you win in college sports these days, is getting these older guys in. Now, if you can get them in and get them, participating in your system and playing your kind of basketball, then I think that is where you are, going to be better off, and that's where you're going to find success. And then you got guys like Breon Pass, right? I mean, he's not been what people have. I still think he's an unbelievable athlete. He would have been great in the slot at NC State right now, in a position where the football team could use a lot of help. But he's still playing basketball. What do you think Breon's, role is going to be this year?
I love that you gave me the Breon Pass question.
Of course
that
wasn't
that wasn't a question from the chat, was it?
No, of course I did. I didn't forget to look at their questions.
Yeah. I don't know. I hate to say this, but give him as little minutes as possible. There's just better guards in the lineup that can give you more. He can be serviceable for a few minutes, but you don't want him playing too many minutes. If he is, then somebody's in foul trouble, and we're probably down big. I like the depth, like you said, the guard play. I think there's some solid depth, but no Cam Woods. I think that's going to be really detrimental for this team. I think he is the X factor. He is the pop that this team needs. I think I look at this team a lot differently if he's on the floor, but as of right now, today, he's not playing with the team, and so we have to go with it as that. Same for MJ Rice. There could be so much more depth and so much more promise with this team, but as far as Breon goes, I just look at him as just a guy at this point. I was a big fan of him. I love the kid. I think he's a nice kid, but I just don't think he's lived up to what we thought he was going to be. And that's been a reoccurring theme with a lot of the point guards that have come through NC State.
Yeah, it's fair. I think Breon still got he was a great shooter in high school, and I'm still kind of surprised that it hasn't translated yet. And I'm hoping that it translates this year, because they could use a guy who can give you, 3 for 5 from 3, right? They could use a guy that can hit that shot consistently, because you're going to have, DJ Horn chucking shots and some of these other guys that are going to take a lot of shots. The other guy, I'm curious, and it's kind of interesting to see he's not really gotten a big role right now in this game, and I think we'll see how this plays out. But LJ Thomas, he showed a lot of promise last year, kind of faded towards the end. His playing time, and everybody's like, "Where's LJ? Let's get LJ in again," because he flashed in some games, and he showed, that he was a very mature player, and he's got 12 minutes right now, but he's 0 for 1 from the field, and doesn't look like he's got a whole lot going on.
Yeah,
what's your expectations for LJ?
I like LJ Thomas a lot. I think he's a guy that I want him in our program for as long as possible. I think he's a nice glue piece. Like you said, he is a very mature player. He's got a good basketball IQ. I just think right now there's not really a path of success when it comes to making plays for him. I don't really think that's his role on this team. I think he's the kind of get-it-done type of player. Not a whole lot of finesse to his game. I don't think that Keatts is drawing up plays to get LJ Thomas a shot up or involved. I think he's out there for effort, heart, hustle, and that's what this team needs. So I like LJ Thomas a lot. I would love to see him get more minutes. It's just, if you do, who do you take out? Who do you replace in his position? There were a lot of times last year where there should have been some LJ Thomas on the floor, but unfortunately there wasn't. And how do you argue against what T and Jarkel meant to this team? Because if you put him on, then who do you take out? Case Marcel? I don't really want to do that. So it's tough. I think it's going to be really hard for him to slither his way into a consistent spot on this lineup. But I do like LJ Thomas, and I hope that he stays around.
Yeah, I mean, One, two, three, four, five, six, seven guards right now with playing time, not including Cam Woods, who hopefully the governor will write him a letter and everybody will be outraged and get him in. But seven guards, it'll be interesting to see how the rotations go. We didn't have that kind of depth last year, and we were playing guys that shouldn't have been playing. This year, there's a little bit more depth, and I'm kind of curious to see how Keats handles that. I think there's the potential here to be playing at the pace and the style. That was always the excuse that people gave, is that, we don't have the depth to, press full court like Keats wants to do. We don't have the bodies to play the style of basketball that Keats wants to run, that, high pace basketball. They got the bodies now. So I'm ready to see all that come to fruition, right? I mean, do you expect them to, rotate guys hot and heavy here and just keep the pressure on, or are we going to see a little bit more of what we saw last year?
I think we're honestly going to see a whole different approach than we've seen in years past with Keats. If you've noticed, I've watched some practice videos. I've paid attention a little bit here and there. I think this team runs through DJ Burns. I think this team goes as DJ Burns goes. When he's off the floor, that's when my concern starts to kick in, because like I said, I don't find Jaden Taylor a very efficient player. I like DJ Horn. Can't say I love him, but I like him. He's a good piece. They might be a nice little 1-2 punch, but you're just asking your guards to do so much for an already inefficient team that likes to chuck up a lot of threes. My big question is, can Casey Marcel continue success as he did last year? There was a time where Casey was shooting like Steph Curry out there. I mean,
right,
multiple threes, game after game after game. Can he stay to that path? I don't know. I think for as much help as defense is needed to cover both the backcourt, it left a lot of really nice open shots for Casey Marcel. I think defense are going to play a little bit more honest this year against us, and it's going to be a little bit tougher for Casey to find some open shots. But if he can be that catch and shoot guy, then, as long as we have that complementary piece, I think the backcourt will do fine. But we'll see.
The team is currently 18 for 19 from the free throw line right now. Wasn't expecting that. That's pretty nice.
They were terrible last year at the free throw line.
Yeah, that was nice. I like that. One of the guys that that I'm interested in, and I know a lot of people weren't really high on, but I kind of thought his experience would come in and be a key piece to this lineup, and it might still, but he's struggling right now, is O'Connell, the Stanford kid.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 4 turnovers right now, and I was kind of looking for him to come in and be the guy that could, orchestrate all this and get the ball into these guys who are shooting, and without actually being able to see the game and watch it right now, looking through the stats. I'm kind of surprised about that one. Maybe it's just an off night or whatnot, but I expected him to be more of a facilitator.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's hard to tell just looking at a stat sheet. I was surprised to see him start. Obviously, I'm sure Keats is just kind of playing around with some lineups, seeing what works, what doesn't work. I was kind of surprised to see him start. But at the same time, I don't really know what he gives you offensively other than being a facilitator off the bench. So maybe it's a decent idea to start him. But if you're going to start him with DJ Burns, I think there's some concerns there. I thought James Henderson had a really nice point. I don't know how much I love O'Connell and Burns playing together at the same time. They're both really good facilitators. You're going to play off on O'Connell. You're going to let him shoot. I think that's it's just how you got to play with him. He'll be fine. Again, he's just a guy. I think as long as he doesn't turn the ball over, kind of like he is right now, he'll be fine. But as far as looking for offense, he is probably not the guy for it.
I'm going to go ahead and read a couple of these questions that people had sent us. Who's the transfer that takes the biggest step from their previous production? That's a good question.
I think it's got to be DJ Horn. I think that there's going to be a lot of because Arizona State had a lot of success last year I think that he steps into that captain role, coming home to Raleigh. I think we're going to look to him for offense when we're in a pickle and we need a shot.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good guess. I was going to say Taylor. I think both Horn and Taylor are going to probably take the majority of the shots, especially if you're talking about the new guys. Probably Middlebrooks, just given on his usage at Clemson, right? I mean, I don't think he didn't get used a whole lot. He wasn't really a focal point, but State's going to need him because there's not a lot of depth down there. And not a lot of experience depth.
MJ Rice. I love MJ Rice, but right now he's not with the program. I've seen him, post a picture saying that he's back or whatever, but I don't, if I'm correct, he hasn't even checked into this game. So, that sucks to see. I was really excited when they wound up getting MJ Rice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad he's back, and I hope he gets his head right. I assume that's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I expect him to. There's some options, and that's kind of the part of this is like we're talking about it, and I really don't know what to expect because there's so many new guys. Right? It's just so strange. It's a completely different roster. Yeah, completely. Not that it's a bad thing. I think the roster had some clear holes last year.
Right.
But I just don't know what that does to my expectations, right? What's the other one here? What mid-major that we scheduled should be in the NCAA tournament?
I don't like this schedule. Me and you have kept in touch. There's nobody that really jumps off this the page for me, and I feel like I'm kind of reaching with UT Martin, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the build-up of the schedule. Like, I think you scheduled the tough teams at the right times. There's nobody that pops off the page for me. I'm sorry. I don't think there's. I mean, like, I'm gonna go over the preseason rankings for these teams. Okay, and you tell me who's gonna make the tournament. The Citadel was picked 9th out of 10 in the SoCon. Abilene Christian is 6 out of 11 in the WAC. Charleston Southern was 8 out of 9 in the Big South. Vanderbilt was 10 of 14. We won't consider them just because they're not a mid-major. Let me go back to the mid-majors. Maryland Eastern was picked 7th out of 8 in the MEAC. UT Martin 5th out of 11. And then Detroit is 10th out of 11. You tell me of that group who even sniffing the tournament. I just, me, man. I love mid-majors, and I think to just write them off and schedule a bunch of cupcakes and then sprinkle in a Tennessee or sprinkle in a Vandy who's going to probably be on the bubble or a BYU that could be on the bubble. I just don't think that's enough. And we've seen this recipe time and time again. Like, I don't like it.
You have to, when you have a schedule like that, right? When you have a I don't want to say cream puff schedule, but what it is, right? If you have a schedule like that, you really need to excel in ACC play. And what we've seen historically is that, and not just us, but it's hard to win a lot of games in the ACC, right? Everybody last year was pretty much on the bubble. And I just feel like that's kind of where everybody's going to fall this year,
Right. Well, and I want to go back to that last question. I completely forgot I had this all written down. As far as DJ Horn goes, I want him running the point. Jaden Taylor, I do not want running the point. If anybody thinks that Jaden Taylor is going to play point for us, I think that is a mistake. In the last 2 months of the season, Taylor committed 24 turnovers in the last 9 games and only 11 assists. Just not very efficient. Now, as far as DJ Horn goes, he doesn't turn the ball over a lot. He has a 2.4 to 1.4 assist to turnover ratio. He'll probably have a turnover or two just about every game, but it's not going to come in bunches. There's only a handful of times where it was 3 or more. One thing that I want people to really appreciate is DJ Horn is, I believe, 5'9" or 5'10". He's a very small guard, and he had 14 separate games of at least 4 rebounds. So he can rebound the ball pretty well for his size. Just to go back to that last question, I meant to sprinkle that in there. So,
yeah, currently Parker's got 7 rebounds. Diarra's got 7 rebounds. Burns and Middlebrooks 5. Morcell's got 5 rebounds.
Let me talk about this real quick. All right,
Go ahead.
And this is a question for you. Do we really think that Dennis Parker is about to replace Jack Clark?
Well, that's a hot button topic. I thought Jack Clark was hugely underrated. I thought he was.
Yep.
He did everything. He could do everything.
Yep.
I know he struggled mid-season, especially shooting the ball. But he was that guy that I would put 5 Jack Clarks out there and I'd beat you every time. Because
100%.
he was good. He was I thought he was talented. And I've, I'll be honest, I don't know too much about Parker. But I really liked Clark. And he went to Clemson, right? I mean, that's...
Yeah, he went to Clemson. I'd love to hear your ACC takes in a minute. But I want to highlight Jack Clark. I think that he was phenomenal when healthy. He led the team in rebounding and missed a handful of games. He played hurt all season long. His shot wasn't there, fine, but he did everything else you could have asked for him from a nice stretch 4. I'm sorry, I'm not confident in a freshman taking over what Jack Clark meant to this team. Now, maybe he could, right? I keep hearing about how great of a fit he is and this, that, and the other. But you know me, we talked as soon as the news dropped that he was leaving state. But I thought that was such an underrated player, and people just wrote him off as if he was replaceable. And I don't think NC State replaced him.
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to replace a guy like a crafty
He
veteran
led the team
guy.
in rebounding for a bad rebounding team, and by a wide margin, and you're telling me that that's replaceable.
Yeah. No, you don't replace a veteran like that who could do it all with a freshman. I don't care. There's very rare that you're hitting a freshman like that that is going to take a place like him. So it's a huge hole to fill. And I thought that was a unfortunate trade for State Middlebrooks for Jack Clark. I really like Clark. I didn't know we were in the minority there. I'm trying to find my other questions. MJ Rice timeline, likely rotation. Will the offense have any issues without an alpha? I don't think they will have. They won't be without an alpha. They won't be without a Turk Wavion to answer that question. I think you got DJ Horn. You got the guys that are going to be shot heavy. Jaden Taylor. Who's going to be the leader? Who's going to be the floor general? I think it's more the replacing Jarkel, right? Who's going to be that Jarkel when you need a shot and everybody else is off? Who's going to take it to the basket and lay out for it, right? That's kind of who I want to see. Who's going to step up to that position?
Their shot-making ability was so damn good. And, I mean, it didn't matter how many guys was on it. It didn't matter what the situation was, amount of pressure. It didn't matter. Jarkel Joyner was one of the most cool, calm, collected players in all of college basketball. His shot-making ability was so phenomenal for NC State. I like the backcourt. I don't love the backcourt. As far as the X factor goes, I mean, I've said it, I think this team needs to work through DJ, but the problem with DJ is that he can't play much. He's either in foul trouble or the conditioning. He only averaged 22.9 minutes per game last season. State got worse when he was off the floor, and it may not seem like it because you had shot makers like T and Jarkel. One thing I want to mention about DJ Burns, and I kind of want to get your thoughts of if this is a good thing that we're working through him or a bad thing. But after Duson went down against Coppin State, DJ Burns, like I said, averaged 22.9 minutes per game. In games where DJ played 25 minutes or less, State was 9-6 with an average margin of loss of 12.7 points. They're getting killed. When DJ Burns played more than 26 minutes, State was 7-3, and the 2 losses that I want to highlight is a 4-point loss at Duke and that infamous 80-69 loss in Chapel Hill where they shot 40 free throws to our 5 was it? So you could easily be 9-1 if DJ Burns is playing more than 25 minutes a game. I think he has to play more than 25 minutes a game because I don't see anybody down low that can score like he can. I don't think that there's a lot of scoring options outside of him down low.
Yeah, currently in the paint, I'm trying to think of who's – Diarra's got 10. showing some flash. Middlebrooks 2, Burns 13. I mean, you're going to need your guards. You're going to need guys like Taylor, who's 6'4", 6'5", I think, if I'm not mistaken, to be able to play big. I'm not sure who's going to step in that position, but they're going to need some. They're going to need some help in the paint. Like Burns, he's played 24 minutes already this game. I guess we're about over. There's only a few more minutes left. 24 minutes in this game, and the team works better when they run through him, right? When the offense runs through DJ Burns and he's making decisions and, making good decisions and getting guys the ball, letting them move freely. The offense was much more efficient and looked much better than when, they played to dump it into DJ and just let him go to the basket. That part is what's, I think, is where we're going to struggle. And he's going to need some help. I agree with you, man. I think there's not a lot of post presence here.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a recipe for disaster, too. I don't mean to cut you off, but it's a recipe for disaster. You're counting on him to be your best player because he is your best player. Well, you better have your best player on the floor a lot, which he can't do.
Well, especially now he's hurt. He's still favoring that ankle in this game.
Exactly. I mean, I think that although he's our strongest link, I feel like he's our Achilles heel at the same time, and it's no fault of his own. I mean, players are going to try to get him in foul trouble. It's impossible for him to draw a foul because he's so damn big. He's dealing with a double-edged sword here. But if State wants to be good, he has to be on the floor for more than 23 minutes a game. That's just fact.
I mean, I expect Ernest Ross to pick up some minutes there. He only played 4 tonight. I think he's been hurt, so this probably played part of that. But yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you, man. I think it's. I'm looking at the second half stats here. State just won 88-72 against the Pickles here.
Is that really their?
No, I have no idea what that are. It looks like a Spartan or something.
I was like, why is he saying that?
Mount Olive. That's all I can think of is Mount Olive Pickles. That's all I got. State was out-rebounded. Defense. God, that's the second half real bad. 14-24. Not good.
That could also be because of some of the bench players.
Yeah. I didn't watch the game, so looking at the box scores. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who's. They're going to need some paint help, right? I think Burns. They need Burns in the game, and how to keep him away from foul trouble. It's going to be interesting.
I think a lot of people are looking at Diarra to kind of be that option. To me, he's a project. To me, he's going to show some flash. There were times where Ernest Ross looked nice, but he doesn't get himself into the game enough. He doesn't make his minutes count. So, like I said, a watered-down version of last season. That's just how I look at this team.
So where do you expect them to finish in the ACC? What's your
Gosh, man, I had a really tough time as opposed to years past trying to figure out where to put this team because I feel like if I were to put them in the top 5, I'd be lying to myself. And again, if I put them 9th or lower, I feel like, they're better than that. I got them at 7th. I wanted to put them 8th, but I got them at 7th. And they will not be making the tournament, in my opinion.
How many bids do you think the ACC gets this year?
I think they get 5.
5? Who's that?
I think they get 5. I think they get Duke. It seems like an obvious one. They're stacked. I'm in on Virginia. I think the defense is going to be back to what we all know and love, or hate, however you want to say it. Miami, I think, should be a lock. Clemson's my sleeper in the ACC that I don't think is getting enough respect. I think I wanted to put Clemson 3rd, honestly. The only reason I did put Miami 3rd is because I love Nigel Pack. Norchad Omier should be probably fighting or flirting with first team ACC. I think that they, as much as I love them, I think they're a little overrated. It's going to be really damn near impossible to replace Isaiah Wong and Jordan Miller. Now, Matthew Cleveland and Poplar, I think, are going to be really nice, really nice additions, and they'll give it a good, attempt. But they should have lost to Drake last year. They were 0-7 against the spread when they were a 12 or more point favorite. I took that stat from the Three Man Weave podcast. Really awesome podcast there. It just tells me that they played down to their competition, and they've had a couple of nice years for sure. But yeah, I think Clemson, is the sleeper, and I think PJ Hall is going to be flirting with a first All ACC bid there. I think the addition of Jack Clark is great. I love the backcourt. I think Brunell is one of the best X's and O's coaches in the league. So I think they get in. And then I'm torn between Wake and UNC. I actually don't even like UNC's roster this year. They got a decent starting five. I think Ingram is okay. Not great, but okay. RJ Davis is a nice piece. I really like him. Armando Bacot may play college basketball for the rest of his life. I don't know. But Wake's backcourt, I think, is going to be fighting for that famous, best backcourt in the ACC with Miller and Hunter Salas. Yeah, they just got to get that defense right. I think that's just that's been Steve Forbes' Achilles heel. They're pretty terrible on defense, but Hunter Salas, I think, is going to fit in really, really nicely. And I trust Forbes with any transfer guard ever. So I think Wake finishes 6th. UNC I have 5th, but that one is just a coin flip for me. So
I can't wait to hear how much Matt Coe likes BC's roster.
I wanted to put them inside the top 10, but I put them 10th. I do like BC's roster. Well, I like their starting 5, but I don't think I like their bench at all.
That was a comment from somebody. That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, what's the final schedule? Or you said 7th. What's the final record?
Oh gosh, I don't even have it all.
I'm terrible about these things.
Yeah, I haven't even gone through it all really. I mean, like I said, they play how many non-conference games? Did we say it was 13 of them? Mm-hmm. I think I said 10-3. I think you have losses against Tennessee. If you pull BYU, I think you can win that game. That Vandy game should be interesting. This is what, the third time in a year in years past that they played against Vandy. They keep going back to them for some reason.
I'm going through the schedule real quick. Sorry, and I'm looking at this run here of at Notre Dame, Virginia at home, Carolina at home, at Louisville, Wake at home. Like that is
That's what I'm saying. The front part of the schedule, I actually like how it's shaped up. You get Virginia and Carolina home to start the season, the ACC season. I love that. You get Wake at home. Like you're getting a lot of these should be good teams out the gate at home. So I love that. What worries me is come March when you've got to go to Florida State, who could be feisty. Syracuse, I think, has a great backcourt. That's going to be a tough matchup. You got to play against Duke late in the season. I'm not so concerned about February as far as a total, but there's definitely some trap games in there. But late in March, I think State might run out of gas just like they did last year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think this team, I'm going to be the optimist here. I think this team's got enough depth and yeah, I think they have enough depth to play how they want to play or how Kevin Keats has said he wanted to play. So I don't think there's any reason this team shouldn't be better than last year's team. And it's going to be tough to say when you lose, maybe not on paper, but I'm talking final record and where they stand, right? I think this that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for the having 12 guards on the roster is going to help you play at the pace you want to play. Now, are they going to be able to play defense? Who's going to facilitate? Are they going to be able to rebound? Like those are the kind of questions that I have. I think our transition defense is something we've struggled at under Keats. So are they able to rectify that? And I'm looking at this score now. It's 89-79 was the final score. The stat broadcast just updated. So a lot closer than we would expect. But who knows who played at the end of that game.
So is this a tournament team in your eyes?
Man, it should be.
So is that a yes? My
feelings for Kevin Keats are well known. I'm trying to be positive-ish, though.
Yeah, I'm not trying to
no,
piss anybody off
I get
here.
it.
I'm just
no.
It just goes back to last year. I think last year was arguably one of the more talented groups that Keats had, and what'd he do with it? I mean, they didn't even finish inside the top 50. That's what killed me last year, is that people called last year a success. I mean, I guess
no way.
I guess if compared to the year before, I would say it's more of a fun season than a successful season. But so is this a tournament team?
Should be. I'm going to say it should be, because you're NC State. Okay. You should be in the tournament.
So how many ACC teams are going to make the tournament then?
6. I'm going 6.
6?
Yeah. I think we have to start expecting better, right? And I'm going to hope that these pieces come together, right? Everybody talks about Keats's experience with building rosters yearly after being at Hargrave, right? I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that, yes, build the roster and he can bring it together. If you can't, then what are we doing here? Because this is what you're supposed to be good at. So I'm going to be, this team should make the tournament. Let's do it. I don't want to be in the bubble again. Being on the bubble like last year is not a success. It's a success if you make the tournament and, win a game or two. That's a success. 68 teams make the tournament. If you don't make it, that shouldn't be a success. Even just making it is barely a success for me. Like, you have to have higher standards, and that's what I'm pushing for. This team should make the tournament, should win a game. How about that? That's what I want to see.
Is that what you expect?
I don't know what I expect.
I mean,
there's too many new pieces. There's too many. Too many new guys. They had
a tough pool with Creighton. Creighton was a 6th seed, right?
Yeah. I mean, I get it.
I think it was. Yeah, like Creighton was probably the hardest 6th seed. Yeah, I mean they'll be fine. I think that was a tough pool. I don't know. I think that this team will be fine. They will be fine.
Yeah.
If you want my honest opinion.
Raise your expectations, everybody. Let's get everybody get excited. I want Kevin Keats to be a tournament coach. I want to get him in there and he can actually win a game in the tournament. I think that's what we're shooting for. With all these new guards and new talent he's bringing in, he's a great recruiter. Let's get him in. Let's see what happens. But that's my expectations.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
No. I mean, I think Keats needs to win. I think he got himself off the hot seat. Gave himself some time, but the bar is now raised, like he said, and we'll see what he does with it. I don't think this is going to be a bad season per se, but as far as last year goes, I don't know if we can top that. But
we're all NC State fans here. We know there's going to be some weird stuff happening.
Yeah.
So let's just live. Let's just wait for it, and I can't wait for it. I'm excited for basketball season, at least for the time being.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. And
other than that, I mean, I'm just happy to be with Red and White, man. Happy to be talking to you.
Let's go.
Just getting back into this thing, man.
That's right. All right, y'all, welcome Matt Coe back. I'm glad to have him. It's always enjoyable to talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about, even more so than my ignorant ass does. So, Matt, welcome. Thank you for carrying our hoops coverage. It's going to be well needed, and I think people will appreciate it. So, as always, thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting the pod. Go follow Matt. Come join us in the pod chat. Jump on the email list. Get all the stuff we'll be working on as basketball season rolls around. And as always, go Pack.